whatever industry and vertical we nail and create the most value for, it's still going to require a human in the loop to build that software. My advice to anyone who watches this is try to identify the biggest pains of prospective buyers, but also approach the entire conversation from the perspective of how much can you help on something that's an issue. Now I'm just ranting. One thing that really surprised me about entrepreneurship is how important customer service is. Here's what I think you should know about customer service. Number one, if you're with a company that doesn't have good customer service, you're most likely going to run into issues at some point in time. You could either have holds on a payment processing account and you suddenly don't have any money to do anything for your business. You can run into issues where your account gets banned or blocked or audited, and now all of a sudden you can't run transactions. And if you don't have a good point of contact, that can create real challenges for businesses. Yet another example of how important customer service can be. There's always a possibility of fraud, such as dealing with chargebacks in a business. Whether or not the business you're with is actually providing what they say they would from the get-go. I was reading a post on a forum about another payment processor and how they put their merchant on the cash discount program, where they charge their customer 3% for using credit cards, but they were still paying exorbitant fees, which is fundamentally not what the model is for. The model is to create a payment infrastructure that allows the business to pass fees to customers to eliminate their fees. You're creating a buffer on top of how much it costs to run those cards, so it should be free. But unfortunately, that's not at all what this company was doing. And so getting back to customer service, it's if you have someone that you genuinely trust and they know what they're doing and they're not necessarily just selling a product, they're selling a solution, right? Because I think there really is a difference between selling a product and not even selling, but instead maybe consulting on the best option. So Sleft is still in its infancy, but we're kind of moving in that direction where we're truly able to identify problems in payment infrastructure for businesses and say, you should either keep doing this or potentially consider trying this or not. So, perfect example. If a restaurant is using Toast and they're happy with the service, there's really no need for another provider. If they're happy with their rates and the customer service, that's great. However, Toast is a very large company, and so it's not always the case that every customer of Toast is being offered the best fee structure or hardware or software. And so the question becomes, is there actually something that we could offer you that can help you save money or get better customer service? In many cases, it's always the second. That's kind of the whole idea. A company in the face of AI nowadays should pride itself on customer service, because customer service is still inherently, fundamentally helping the customer. And so until you get to a point where AI is helping a customer in a more meaningful way than a human can, it still comes down to the human touch. Even just coding software right now, it's I've thought of so many different SaaS ideas since starting Sleft. I've inundated my brain with potential SaaS ideas. Upwards of, if I'm going to be just genuine and conservative, probably 250 different SaaS ideas, maybe as much as 1,000, honestly. The reality of the situation is when you're building LLMs, from my understanding, you have to do exactly that. You still have to build the AI. So when you hand it off to create a product or to give to essentially what we're talking about is creating a product. So if you build an AI, create a product, you hand it off to a potential client. Well, inherently that product is going to be constrained by the perimeter of the LLM, of what it understands and what it can get better at. And so human in the loop, technology right now is still very relevant, which is great for founders, and it's great for people who are trying to start businesses with AI and SaaS and creating real value where value should be created. And, it could be the case that nothing I produce is ever really seen by many people. So I'll give credit where credit's due. Alex Hormozy, one of the brightest marketing entrepreneurs I've ever came across. He's awesome. If you learn the fundamentals of sales and how to create value for another business, then creating products with AI, creating SaaS becomes way easier because you're not just hyper focusing on solving a problem and then marketing it. You're starting with let's create the value first. And it certainly could be solving a very niche problem, but it's more than that. It's walking through a sales cycle. A good tie in here is actually thinking about medicine when you're either delivering bad news or you're preparing someone for surgery. You want to walk them through what they're going to deal with. Like, all right, well, we're going to first start by shaving this part of your leg, and then we're going to prep the leg, and then we're going to put you under, and then we're going to cut down to the bone, and then we're going to fix the bone, and then we're going to put a plate on it, or we're going to put a rod through your bone, right? And then you're going to wake up, and you may have some discomfort, but we're going to give you pain meds, and when you wake up and you see your leg, it's going to be covered in gauze, and then there's going to be ace bandages around it, or you might be in a cast. Same principles as teaching someone what to expect so that they feel comfortable and at ease with entrepreneurship and providing extra value and starting from a value lens as opposed to a problem solving lens. Not necessarily as opposed to, but in addition to a problem solving lens. Because I think that when you start from a value perspective and then move to problem solving, you just win every single time. And if you don't know how to create value, learn from Alex Hormozy because he can explain it better than I can. So anyway, the last piece of craziness I'm going to say in this rant about SLEFT, payment processing, customer service, creating value, being problem specific or value specific, but ideally being both. When finding a company, is the fact that the customer service, human in the loop thing is not going anywhere. Every SaaS I'm going to build, whether it's for private equity or merchants doing business local to Miami or West Palm Beach, or banks working with accounting firms, or vice versa, or medical offices, but in private equity, for example, deal sourcing and deal origination is a big part of someone's workflow, from my understanding. And I'm not a private equity person, but I'm learning about the industry, and I figured I'd share some thoughts. As a 10-month-old entrepreneur who uses LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias, here's what I've noticed about where business might genuinely be heading. Number one is these lead gen companies that are offering you booked calls on your calendar, or agencies offering marketing guarantees. I think it's fundamentally shifting in the direction of let's throw AI at this and think it's going to solve our problems. But people are getting averse to seeing AI polished content or AI polished copy and thinking anything but that this was robotically generated and should be swipe left on. So until these models can pass the Turing test, which is a test of a machine's ability to exhibit intelligent behavior equivalent to a human, we're still going to be able to have an eye for BS copy and AI polished copy and content. So I think that there's inherent value in lead gen companies, especially ones that are using AI. But this problem can actually be solved in another way, which is something SLEFT is working on right now. All right, so SLEFT has been working on something really sick. I wanted to bring it to everyone's attention. We're working on connecting B2B businesses using AI. And like I just ranted on for 10 minutes, AI is still kind of at its infancy and people are averse to it. And so we're trying to create a lot of value up front in our product prior to launching so that when it's looking good, it's not, oh, this is really, really good, but still not as good as a human. Because if it's still not as good as a human, then you still don't have a good AI idea. So it's got to be better than the human. And so learning the technology as a founder, and if you're not a technical founder, because I'm not, learning the technology is not really your job. Your job is to be made aware of the research of what's out there. Your job is also to understand the what, so what's the problem, and why. Why are we trying to solve the problem? Whereas your technical founder is in charge of the how. How are we going to solve the problem? Now, the issue with this is that if you don't know the how at all and you have no understanding of how things work technologically speaking, you're only going to be able to imagine so many ideas of what to solve and why to solve it. And typically the what to solve and why to solve it problems are fundamentally, can you solve the problem, create value like I spoke about, but also can you make a lot of money in the process? And it's all about profitability at the end of the day and creating something that generates more and more profit. Otherwise you fail and go bankrupt. So, moral of the story is, if you're a non-technical co-founder or founder, you're only going to get so far without having that technical expertise. And maybe I'm like extremely niched down right now into B2B SaaS and PaaS, but I truly do think that it's the case that, you're kind of screwed if you don't know about like Google Stitch or like how to properly prompt multiple LLMs like Gemini, Grok, ChatGPT, Perplexity, and then work with a coder to have ideas come to life and learn how to use the deep research functions versus the general tools. Play with every single version of ChatGPT. Try to create with ChatGPT. Research on AI all the time through forums. I don't read the news cover to cover, but what I found with building a business is, you got to know what's going on, because if you don't know what's going on, you're only going to be able to build so efficiently and effectively compared to your competitors. So it's no longer a game of like, all right, let's be, really knowledgeable for the sake of being really knowledgeable and enriching ourselves. Like, it's like, no, you have to know what's going on and why people are trying to solve that problem. And then you have to think a couple steps ahead genuinely and think, well, how can you create a solution to a problem and then build a defensible moat around it that allows your product to be valuable and not replaceable? And then you have to then you have to figure out how to pitch it, market it, and maintain it, and continue providing value. And that's honestly business. So we're building a B2B connector. The idea is to be able to reach your dream ICP or your dream partner. We're hoping to have a pilot within a couple months. Could be as short as a month away, honestly. Keep in touch. If you're a business owner and one of your problems is getting leads or connecting with businesses around you, if you feel siloed, or if you feel like you're operating in a vacuum where like you go into work every day and you know who's in your plaza, but you don't know the other 15 plazas of business owners around you, or you've never even stepped foot in them or went to dinner there or bought something from a party store for a party you had at one of them. Like, if you haven't had those interactions and like started kind of networking as a business owner, you're inherently at a disadvantage. I think it's fundamentally a problem for a human being because we're geographically constrained. We can only be in one place at one time. But as a business, it behooves you to be everywhere at once. It behooves you to be omnipresent. And so if we can create technology that allows you to be more omnipresent, or not even that, because that's just describing marketing, honestly, but instead like allows you to connect with people without having to shoot your shot at 100 people in a row to then get to someone that might say, yeah, maybe we could talk. You win. If you create that tech, you win. So we're trying to create that tech. Thanks for watching.